Today, we are going to be focusing on body image and self-esteem. All week long, we've been getting dating advice from the women of the Honest Women podcast. And Andrea Berkeley is going to join us here in 1 second. But before we get her on, I asked Cassie off the air. You know, she has mentioned this before, that she has struggled with body image, and she has also talked about how that has affected her sex life too. So I wanted her to lead today.
Yeah, you know, I think it's very difficult if you're in your head about your body to let go and have fun in the bedroom if you're always constantly worried. And I remember with past boyfriends, I wouldn't let the lights be on at all. And it's a fight with my husband. And some days I'm super comfortable. And some days when I'm getting dressed and he's like, hey, I'll like turn around or hide behind the shower because I just don't want to be on display, because I feel like it's hard for me to wrap my head around that when I look at my body, I see one thing. And when he looks at it, he sees something completely different. But just knowing that I can't wrap my head around what he sees.
Maybe he doesn't see something different. Maybe he sees the same thing you see, but he just sees it as beautiful where you do not.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm trying to say is like, it's the same body, but like the way it's interpreted, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, where I'm looking at it and I'm seeing like all these flaps and jiggles and skibbity doo dah, naughty bits, all that stuff. And he's looking at it.
We're skibbity.
Okay, we got to explain that.
So we are doing word sneak. Jackson, during the first break, gave us all words of Gen Alpha slang to say and work into the conversation throughout the show. I got skibbity. And when he wrote it, he literally wrote, definition has absolutely no meaning. Good luck. And context based on some viral YouTube series. Example, I have no effing clue. So I'm like, how am I going to work that in?
But I commend you, because right before we started this break, I'm like, ooh, can be a more serious break, so I can try to sneak my word in and people won't be as on guard.
Yeah, I was like, if I just skibbity doo dah.
Your evil plan has been foiled. All right. So anyway, there are just some times where you're just not feeling great. So at that point, will you not interact that way at all, or will you go for it anyway?
I'll try and force myself to go for it just to get out of my own head. And I think being punished is a strong word, but I don't think it's fair for him to suffer the ramifications of my mental sort of hang up on that sort of stuff. But at the same time, like the lights will be off, or it used to be I would have to get like really drunk or high on Delta 9 to be able to just let loose enough where I'm like, I don't care, and go for it. And I think it really does affect your sex life, because as a woman, if you're in your head,
sure,
you can't let go. And I think for a lot of women, but especially for me, it's such a mental game that it just messes me up.
Andrea Berkeley joins us from the Honest Women podcast. Hi,
good morning. Cassie, I just so relate to everything that you said. And I think so much of your experience inside, like your own judgment of your body, has to do with what we are fed as young women as what a body should look like. And it's only recently that I realized that the images that we see are of young women. They are teenage bodies a lot of the time. And most of us don't look like that, especially after we've had a child or we just get older, right? And so what we think that we should look like and what we do look like is different. And that creates that dissonance, that feeling of like, I'm not the way that I'm supposed to be. To make things more complicated, the time in our lives when we discover our own sexuality, our own power to draw attention is that same time, like that teenagery time. That's as close as we're ever going to look to that image of what we think we should look like. And so the distance that we get from that time in our lives causes that distress. Does that make sense?
It does. Is this anything that a man can help with? I mean, here Chad wants to play grab ass all the time, and Cassie's like, you ain't playing grab ass with me. Is there anything that he can do to make her feel more comfortable, or this has to come from an internal place?
100% there is. So I know that yesterday when you talked to Jessica, you guys were talking about how it takes time for women to basically be ready for intimacy. And part of that is just that we spend so much time outside of our bodies. We're either judging our bodies or we're doing things like I'm running around and I'm too busy to eat. Or I don't even have time to go to the bathroom, right? Like we're separated from our bodies all the time. We're in our heads. And so I think that touch is so important. And a lot of times what we describe, like that scenario you described, is that my husband looks over and he's like, hey, baby, and he's ready. But what's happening for you is like, I wasn't there at all. I'm thinking now I feel self-conscious. I can't connect with myself physically. And so slowing the whole thing down and incorporating some touch and letting there be some time can get you out of your mind and back into your body.
This almost feels like a vicious circle. Tell me if I'm wrong here, Cassie. Have there been times where Chad has done this, where he's touched you, he stroked you a little bit, yet you were feeling so insecure that you shut even that affection down?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And even more than that, it'll irritate me. I'll be like, stop touching me. Because in my head, I just am so self-conscious of what he's going to touch that I don't like about myself, that it irritates me that he's doing that, because I'm like, hands off, because I'm not comfortable in my own skin. And this is the weird part. It's not always like that. Sometimes it's just completely fine and I'm great with it. And then some days I feel off and I don't want to be touched. And
you also have 2 young kids, and so you feel overtouched as it is.
But every touch too is a reminder of the part of the body that I feel that I need to change for some reason, right? So it's just, oh, you touched that curve. Well, that one shouldn't be there in my head. Does he know that shouldn't be there? Is he thinking about this like muffin top roll, as he does that? Because I am, and now I'm out of it, and now I'm also thinking about muffins.
And then
so good. I want a muffin.
Love muffins.
And then he starts to sort of subconsciously realize, like, this is not doing anything for her. In fact, it's turning her off. So he stops doing it, and then the affection goes away, and then you got a whole other set of problems.
That happened to us.
It did?
Yes, that is exactly the thing that happens. And so actually one thing that I want to suggest, I want to put you back in the driver's seat, Cassie, because I know you are a hot tamale. And when you get dolled up and you are like feeling yourself, that's the moment where intimacy might be easier. And so I think a lot of times when we feel like bad about ourselves or my body should be different, I know I've done this before. I'm not going to buy clothes until I am the body that I want to be, right? Why should I even get dressed? Like why do I need to put on makeup? I've got 2 little kids, but sometimes we want to be able to like be Cassie the woman. And Cassie the woman maybe needs like a date that night and needs her husband to take those kids and like take them away.
So I can go on a date with another man.
That's not going to help either.
No.
I mean, it could spice things up, but there's a lot of negotiating to do around that. But yeah, take the kids while you're getting ready. Take your time getting ready. Get an outfit that you feel really good in. That for me was a massive turning point postpartum, when I went from wearing like the postpartum high-waisted leggings with the just everything was just like reeking postpartum, to like, I'm going to go to the store, get something that fits, and start being like, oh, actually, this body that I have right now is pretty great. Show off the boobs a little bit. You know what I mean? Like the parts of your body that still feel sexy or might be able to feel sexy. And that feels kind of anti-feminist of me to say, but this is all about reclaiming your power and your connection to your body, and maybe opening some doors where intimacy is just more likely to be comfortable.
I will say, taking the control back with what you just said is something I found that has worked. I haven't quite done what you outlined, but this show made me realize when we did our sex bet last year, where we went to see who went the longest after the new year without having sex. We weren't trying, it just who was, and I think I was like second to last, and it was just always dry spell after dry spell.
Katie is still in the competition, I think. She's still losing, man.
Is Katie still playing?
It's a year and a half. Tell her the competition's over.
Katie, you won, all right?
You don't have to keep winning.
have to keep going.
She wants to be the Patriots.
And I do have to say, even though there was other stuff going on in my life, like depression at the time, other things that were understandable, it did make me realize in conversations that, again, my marriage was on the back burner, and so was the intimacy, and it kind of needed to be at that time in life, but it made me wake up to the fact that even though it was on the back burner, it didn't need to stay there, and that I needed to fix it because of exactly what was outlined. Chad stopped touching me because he's respecting me, and now it's dead. So I started instigating more, and I would do the touches and the kisses and all that, and it got us back to where we needed to be. So it did feel good to be in control and under my terms, and now I just got to work my way up to lingerie. If the RVs are rocking, don't come and
Vroom, vroom. All right, the advice this morning has come from Andrea Berkeley from the Honest Women podcast. Their podcast is part of the Pioneer Network, which I own proudly. Thank you for being part of that. What do you guys got going on this week on the show?
We are actually preparing for an episode on autumn anxiety, which sounds maybe not so sexy, but a lot of us right now are in this season where things are just speeding up and they're really stressful. We've also got an election coming and the holidays. And man, that can actually kill your libido. So tune in with us next week and hear about autumn anxiety and what to do about it.
It's the Honest Women Podcast.
The Bert Show.